Hey now, I'm Dave, and here to talk about the Grateful Dead's brand new Dave's Picks Volume 54. If you're watching this video, you probably saw a link or an email about Dave's Picks 54. Hard to believe we're in the 14th year of the Dave's Picks series. It started in 2012. We've been doing 4 a year, every year since then. Exciting. This show, as you might know by now, for Dave's Picks 54, it was actually announced quite some time ago, probably back in November, early December. It is a complete show, an extremely long show from March 26, 1973, from the incredible spring tour of 1973, the Dead's second tour of the year. They'd done that in a really great February tour of Madison and St. Paul and Champaign-Urbana and Lincoln and Salt Lake City, Iowa City. So some really, really wonderful shows on that tour. This one, I think, is even better. It's, I think, a great creative time for the Grateful Dead. This tour happened just about a month and a half after the debut of a lot of those songs that would appear on Wake of the Flood, Eyes of the World, Road Jimmy, Here Comes Sunshine, a couple songs that would appear a year later on Mars Hotel, Wave That Flag in its US blues form a year later, China Doll. So it was an incredibly creative time for the Grateful Dead, and with that in mind, the Grateful Dead hit the road for the spring tour, starting out with 3 shows at Nassau and ending about 2.5 weeks later at the Boston Garden on April 2nd. Now, several of these shows have been released in the past. The April 2nd show in Boston, a magnificent show. March 24th in Philly, March 28th in Springfield, and coming up at the end of May as part of the brand new 60 CD box set, Enjoying the Ride, the second night at Nassau on March 16th. So there's been a lot of this music from this tour released, and probably more to come, understandably and justifiably so. It's a great tour. Every night was really, really wonderful. So this show from Baltimore, I've been listening to it pretty hardcore for over 25 years. So I'd never heard the show before until I started working for the Grateful Dead in 1999. And Dick, my predecessor, and friend and mentor and boss, all of those things, and a wonderful guy, he turned me on to it. We were talking about not underrated shows that didn't really circulate, which I guess would make them underrated. Nobody really knew them that well. And Dick was telling me about a lot of shows that he knew were in the vault, obviously, that people really hadn't heard that much by that point. And Baltimore was one of them. He goes, oh, don't sleep on this one. There's a lot of great shows around it. And he mentioned Philly and Springfield and Boston, all those great shows. But the Baltimore show. So I made a CD of it. I remember I made a 4 CD set. Because I was having a tough time getting this onto 3 CDs. It does fit on 3 CDs, thankfully, but just barely with the third disc with the huge long sequence. We'll talk about that in a minute, clocking in at almost 80 minutes, like 79 minutes and change, CD maximum length. But anyhow, I drove around with this. I remember I had a car. I got a car when I moved to California in 1999. With a CD player. It was my first car ever with a CD player. You know what? I think the first year I had a car, I actually had a little CD player, a little portable like Discman that I'd plug into the cassette player. But then after that, I got a different car that had a CD player. So I've had this show on CD for over 25 years and have listened to it relentlessly. And what I always found about it is that everything from the shorter first set songs to the jammier first set songs to the big second set jam, everything is played with purpose. Everything is played with inspiration. The band is on, the band is engaged. Now the Baltimore Civic, it holds over 10,000. I think it's about a 10 or 12,000 seat arena. By all accounts, it was packed that night. They had a special guest. Wolfman Jack introduced the second set, and of course the Dead play Ramble on Rose to open the second set after, just like Wolfman Jack's intro. But it's a show that I remember thinking that this one's got to come out someday. And for whatever reason, and I'll tell you, you know, the Boston Garden show that came out, that Eyes of the World sequence, that second set, the whole show is great. But that Eyes, I was like, well, we got to get that out. And then the Philly Spectrum, the Springfield, right on both sides of the Baltimore show, great Dark Stars. We got to get that out. So there's been reasons why the other shows have come out. They're magnificent. This one, it's finally time for Baltimore to happen. And like I say, it's a long show. Jeffrey Norman had his challenges. We didn't break up any jams. We didn't, nothing like that was done in terms of a jam sequence being broken up and going on to the next CD. Thankfully, everything fit. But it's a long show. It's over 30 songs. When you go to a concert now, I don't care who it is, you know, you're generally seeing 18 to 22, 24 songs. I mean, unless you're going to see Taylor Swift, then you're seeing 45. But, you know, this is a long show, even by Grateful Dead standards. It clocks in at a full 4 hours of music, not to mention the set break. So it's one of those shows that I refer to it kind of as an upper echelon Dead show from an upper echelon era, the spring of 73. The first set is just packed with all the stuff you'd expect. It opens Promised Land, followed by Mississippi Half Step, one of the newer songs, not from February 73, it goes back to the summer of 72, but great Half Step. And then the set goes on with some of the newer material from Ace, material from Jerry's new album, Europe 72, all those kind of songs. And then towards the end of the first set, we start getting into some of the bigger jamming. We get a tremendous China Rider. Very reminiscent of what they were doing a year earlier on the Europe tour and the Europe 72 version. And then they end the first set, quite typically for 1973, with about a 20-minute version of Playing in the Band. So you know something's going, like they're building to something. And what they build to, as they so often did, was the second set. So second set, as I mentioned, Wolfman Jack, a voice like no other. I mean, I'm of an age when Wolfman Jack was still around a little bit when I was getting into music in the mid-80s, early 80s, mid-80s. So I knew who he was. He had such a distinct voice. He does the introduction, which is just amazing. And then Ramble on Rose. And then we get some really wonderful, great, amazing Greatest Story Ever Told. Big River, as I've mentioned, I've never met a Big River I don't love. We get a Here Comes Sunshine, at this point only, what, about 7 weeks old, maybe? 6, 7 weeks old at this time, debuted February 9th at Stanford. The second set jam is where it's at. It is 80 minutes, minus a tiny bit, 79 and a half minutes or so of straight through jamming, opening quite typically with a He's Gone that then goes into a jam that then goes into Truckin'. So for all of these Europe 72 heads, which I'm sure a lot of these people had been buying all of the Dead's records, but the most recent one was Europe 72, where you've got He's Gone and Truckin' both on that record. So, you know, they're getting a good dose of the Europe 72 sound with the China Rider that appeared earlier in the first set. So you get this great He's Gone Truckin'. The jam out of Truckin' just goes on, and we then get a Weather Report Suite prelude. Now this is many months. This is what, 7 months before the album came out, about 5 or 6 months before the album was recorded in the summer of 1973. It's only the prelude because Bob had not yet written Weather Report Suite Part 1 or Let It Grow. So we get the Weather Report Suite prelude. More jamming. We get two of Jerry's kind of lower tempo, ballady kind of songs, but both are incredibly powerful. One from Skull and Roses and one, again, going back to Europe 72 and the Dead's first record. We get a Wharf Rat, and then after a little more jamming, we get a really tremendous Eyes of the World, another new song going back to February 9th, 1973. Great Eyes of the World, clocking at 15 minutes. We also get Morning Dew, and it's a great dew. It's a huge dew, actually. It builds and builds, as you'd expect, played flawlessly. One of my favorite Morning Dews from 1973, and there were a lot of good ones. A lot of great ones later in the year. I can think of, oh boy, I love the ones when they do that play in Uncle John's Morning Dew, Uncle John's Playing Sandwich on November 10th and November 17th later in the year. Also that really, really wonderful Morning Dew in Oklahoma City to open the fall tour, the October tour of 1973. So just overall, an incredible concert. It's been mastered by Jeffrey Norman from the Analog Master Tapes. Sounds, like I said, I've had this CD that I made in the Dead's vault from the Master Reels a long time ago, and with an okay reel-to-reel deck. It was an archival deck, meaning it was very safe, but the quality of the transfer was fine. It was actually very good. But now that I've heard Jeffrey Norman's transfer and mastering job, it's like you're listening to an analog tape. It's warm, it's full. I thought I knew this show well. Now hearing Jeffrey's work over the last few months on this one, I know it even better. And it's really a wonderful, top-notch show. Now, I do want to say we got a call just as we were in production. It was right when we'd announced this being the next Grateful Dead release back in November, December. And a Deadhead reached out to us. Thank you, David. And thank you, Mary, for putting David in touch with us. We got an email from a Deadhead who photographed this show and said he'd be very pleased to have us include these photos from Baltimore Civic in the package. So, and he downplayed them. He said, oh, you know, I was young and they're not great photos. So Steve Vance, our package designer, got great job on it, Steve, by the way, got the photos, and they are terrific. I'd never seen photos from this specific show. I'd seen photos from the tour. So, you know, we always do try to include photos from the actual concert. Sometimes we can't find them, so we use photos from that same tour, maybe the night before or night after. In this case, we've got actual Baltimore Civic, March 26, 1973 photos, and they're outstanding. Thank you again, David, for getting in touch with us. They're really, really top-notch, and they add tremendously to the package. And what? Oh yeah, the UCSC has come through with some incredible archival documents. Now it's interesting. The Dead had played Baltimore Civic just 6 or 7 months earlier in September of '72, a show that came out as Dick's Picks Volume 23 a long time ago, over almost 25 years ago. So for them to come back, I mean, if you're living in the Baltimore area and you've got this incredible Dead show in September '72, and you know, you're buzzing off that for months. I would be. I still am. And this show took place 53 years ago, and I certainly wasn't there. But I still love that show. So you're buzzing from that show. And then all of a sudden, the Dead on their spring tour announce again they're coming back. And they, I think, not only play a show as good as September '72, but I think they exceeded it. I think that second set jam, I think the first set is comparable, possibly a little better. I think the second set jam, the Baltimore one in '73, is unlike any other. It just goes on, an uninterrupted sequence of nearly 80 minutes. It's one of the longest sequences of Grateful Dead uninterrupted music. No breaks, no pauses, no song breaks, nothing like that. It just really sounds absolutely incredible. So I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to invite you to go over to dead.net. I think they've got a couple of songs up for the listening party and all the information. So go check out Dave's Picks 54. Comes out at the end of April. I'm shooting this a beautiful day. It's still a little cold, hence the jacket. I'm shooting this on March 31st. So we're getting close to release date. We're getting close to release date in less than 2 months of the Enjoying the Ride box set. We've got a big year ahead. This is the Grateful Dead's 60th anniversary, and as we want to make it as special as possible. We've got a lot of, I think, very special Dave's Picks coming. Cincinnati 76 came out, Baltimore 73. Jeffrey's currently working on Dave's Picks 55, the one that will come out at the end of July. We've got a lot of other surprises coming. So do tune into dead.net and sign up for the newsletter, because there's lots of information on there. But yeah, head over to dead.net. Dave's Picks 54, they generally do sell out pretty quickly. Some of them, pick it up before it's too late. It is a top-notch show. It's a show that, like I said, I've been listening to for many, many years, and I'm glad it's finally coming out. It's kind of a sense of relief that it's finally happening. If you subscribed, by the way, to the Dave's Picks series, you'll also be getting that second set from the Buffalo show a week later on March 31st with the I Know You Rider, the standalone I Know You Rider, no China Cat. Very cool sequence, unique, great other one, on and on. But anyhow, subscribers, you don't have to go out and rush to pick up Dave's Picks 54 because you'll get it. But those who didn't subscribe, that's cool. But do check it out. It's a great show. It's 4 hours of music. It's one of the longest shows in the entire Grateful Dead vault, in terms of 4 hours of music with not including the set break. It is a very long show. It is a very great show. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm going to shut it off with the little remote control. We'll see you here soon. I'm sure we'll have other announcements coming up. April's a big month for the Grateful Dead with more Sphere shows for Dead & Company. Record Store Day coming up pretty soon by the time you're watching this. It's the Saturday, the 12th or 13th, the 12th, I think, of April. Check out the Grateful Dead offerings there. And Dave's Picks 54 available exclusively at dead.net. Just a really, really wonderful show. I know it like the back of my hand. Thanks for watching. I'm Dave, and it's been a pleasure.